Welcome to Forbes Newsroom. Joining me now is Alexandra Levine, a technology reporter here at Forbes. Alexandra, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So recently you investigated this really dark underbelly of TikTok. Can you explain?
Absolutely. So, what I'd been hearing and seeing on TikTok is that there were small accounts that normally wouldn't attract much attention because they're unverified, they don't have the blue check mark, and they just seem to have only a handful of followers. But I've been hearing that some of these seemingly innocuous accounts could actually be portals to illegal child sexual abuse material. There are a number of really large creators on the TikTok platform who have built their following around calling attention to safety issues on the platform and who have specifically been talking about safety issues as they pertain to kids. And several of these creators over the past roughly 6 months had been raising awareness of this specific issue, the phenomenon. They were calling it colloquially, like informally, they were calling it posting in private, or they were calling it posting in quote only me mode. And what this essentially means is that they were alleging that there were people who were sharing login information for these very small private accounts, and that they were posting using a setting that would make the videos visible only to the person who's logged in. So if you're sitting on TikTok and looking at some of these accounts from the outside, you don't see a thing. But if you were to be given the login information and log in, you would actually be able to see things that are only visible from being actually inside the account. So we had been hearing a lot about this phenomenon, and we decided to investigate it. And unfortunately, we're able to confirm that this is actually happening, and it appears to be happening at scale on the platform.
So can you speak to that? How prevalent is this on TikTok?
Well, it's very difficult to quantify exactly how many of these accounts there are, because what happens typically is that when accounts or videos from some of these accounts are reported, the content may be taken down or the account may be wiped from the platform altogether or banned. But there's new accounts that are popping up almost as frequently, it seems, as the old accounts are being banned. And so when you're talking about numbers, it is really difficult to quantify, the exact volume. But what I can say is that there are, seemingly endless accounts that have names similar to the accounts that we identified as like fully, being problematic and fully violating the community guidelines on TikTok. So that's, in other words, there are many accounts that all have sort of similar names. A lot of it kind of looks like jargon or like kind of jumbled terms. But what a lot of the, usernames have in common is that they have combinations of the words post and the words private, or the word private and then the word video. And so like I said, even though it's not easy to put a number on exactly how many of these accounts exist, we have reason to believe that they are, that they are very common on the platform. And just in the course of reporting the story for a couple of months, they were extremely easy to find.
Speak to that. I want to talk about how users find and get into these accounts. How easy is it to find the accounts, and how do people find them?
It's unfortunately really easy to find these accounts on TikTok. Some of the accounts, it's easy to find them simply by searching combinations of the words post and private in the search bar. If you search quote post in private just on its own, it's blocked. But any kind of variation of those words, we call it algo speak. Algo speak is basically where users use slang or they'll use deliberate typos to kind of evade to sort of like evade detection by the moderation systems in place. And sometimes just typing in a variation, like a misspelled version of the word post in private, will pull up plenty of these posts that are effectively advertising, this is how you can come in, you're expected to post if you come in, DM me for the password. Those are very easy to find, along with the actual accounts themselves.
So what you described also sounds like a bit like whack-a-mole. One account gets taken down, another one crops up in its place. So let's take a step back here. What are TikTok's security policies in place that they can't seem to crack down on this?
TikTok says it has a zero tolerance policy for child sexual abuse material, and that when they find accounts that are attempting to obtain or distribute or otherwise share or consume child sexual abuse material, that they ban them immediately. They prevent people from creating more than one of these accounts on, you know, the same device, et cetera. That said, this entire story really highlights just how difficult it has been for TikTok to enforce those policies across the board, and also how difficult it is for both AI moderation, you know, the content moderation apparatus that's fueled by machine learning, and also for human moderators to crack down on these things, because as I had mentioned, the accounts are evolving and sort of being, you know, new ones are emerging as quickly as old ones are being banned. And the other piece of this is that the language around the algo speak around this sort of phenomenon, it keeps evolving, it keeps sort of mutating. And as soon as they're able to ban one word that is, you know, that might pull up these accounts, another one, you know, another one, users start, you know, using another one. So, so TikTok absolutely does have policies that are aimed at deterring this sort of behavior. And they have certainly taken steps to crack down on this issue, as evidenced by the fact that if you search the term posting in private in the search bar, you'll get either a warning or you'll get some sort of a label saying, you know, you're attempting to view material that is not allowed on the platform. But beyond that, it really, as you said, is a game of whack-a-mole.
Yeah, and I think something interesting that you said is that, you know, people can't see this if you're just looking at the account. You need to get the login information and get into the account to see this type of material. So what are TikTok's rules specifically about sharing login credentials?
TikTok flatly prohibits sharing of login credentials. It's stated on their website, it's stated pretty in pretty black and white terms that you're not allowed to share login credentials to other accounts, especially if that enables users to participate in activity that violates TikTok's broader community guidelines. That said, in the course of reporting the story, TikTok did give us a few examples of, you know, situations where sharing of login credentials may occur and is okay. One of them, they said, are social media managers or publicists who help creators with very large followings manage their account. They may share their login credentials, but we know that that's not, you know, the reason that login credentials are being shared for the purposes of like what we describe in the story. Even more interesting was that two-factor authentication, which sounds like a jargony thing, but it's pretty widely known. Two-factor authentication is the extra security step that most platforms use now. It's really an industry standard that makes it makes you you know, verify when you log into an account, either through email or through a phone call or through a text message, that you are the person actually who owns the account. Two-step verification, like I said, is an industry standard for so many of the major social media platforms, but it is not turned on as a default on TikTok. And that was something that experts that I spoke to for the story expressed a lot of alarm about. Two-factor authentication is something that would help TikTok, in theory, detect, you know, unusual logins, whether an unusual login means a login from the other side of the world, or perhaps it just means there's 40 people logging into an account at once. But TikTok does not have two-factor authentication turned on as a default.